Can you hear what gardening simplified? It is October 18th, and they're saying tomorrow it might freeze. Now, our average first frost date is around the middle of November. So, why are we in the middle of October having to cover things up? Well, we hadn't even got a frost yet, and we're going to get a freeze this evening. And I always tell you, whenever I do give information, I tell you that's average first frost date. And that's because you never know when it's going to come. With all the tracks in the sky, weather manipulation, this kind of stuff, you never know when they're going to decide that they want to try to kill our crops. That might sound like some kind of conspiracy, but we'll leave it at that. But anyway, as you can see, we've dug out the hoops. We got potatoes here. They might have a few potatoes under them, but they do a whole lot better if they go longer. Now, we've taken and gotten some of our row cover out. We've got our hoops out. We're going to cover a bunch of these rows. The 16-day forecast after this cold night tonight is looking like it's going to be pretty good, decent weather for the next 2 weeks. So if nothing changes, so we're just going to have to cover this one night. Now, if it was going to look like it's going to be for a while, we might just go ahead and say, okay, it's time to bite the bullet, give up on these and let them go. But being that it looks like we'll have a good bit of time to give these a chance to mature a little bit more, we're going to go ahead and start covering them. We'll be closing up the end on the high tunnel greenhouse, and of course closing the doors and the sides on the little one here. But I'll kind of take you along on this journey. Of course, we'll be covering potatoes. We're also going to be covering some crops that you wouldn't think that the weather would be cool enough to harm, like these collard greens. Now, they are still small, and it's very possible that it could do some damage to them or stun them. So what we're going to do with these are we'll go ahead and cover them, and we won't have to worry about it. Over here are beets. Instead of worrying about getting some leaves burnt and slowing them down, we'll cover them along with our cabbage and broccoli. We'll also go ahead and cover our small okra, even though it's kind of sparse in here. We'll cover it, and we're going to cover these onions right here. The cool weather's been kind of drying them out, and so we'll cover them one day, and that way possibly they'll go ahead and survive. Now, as far as the peppers, they're too big, and what we'll do is we'll pick which ones are ready, and we'll see how well they hold up. It's a few days till market, but they should hold up fine. We won't cover these onions. These ones seem to be in good enough shape. Now, we are going to cover the dill so we don't end up burning the tips and the curly leaf parsley. We've got some basil right here. We'll end up covering it, and we've got some more on the row down there we'll cover. And we're going to kind of do like a mass tarp or mass cover over these green beans. They're loaded up. They're flying good. If we can keep them from getting too awful cold overnight, then we'll go ahead and won't worry about continuing to harvest. We're going to pull down our greenhouse, and we might go ahead and just lay a cover over our turnips and mustard here. That way, if it does get cold enough, it's not going to nip the leaves, because they're just almost ready to harvest. And also, we've got down at the end, we've got some small turnip and mustard that's just popping up. We're going to cover them. They definitely, they won't do good with the cold weather. Okay, I'm going to give a little update. It's the October 19th. Now we did get our potatoes covered. We got our little collards here covered, and we'll end up, what we're probably going to do is take the cover off. Now tonight it's supposed to get down to 41, and then it'll be pretty warm the rest of the week, to where we won't worry about it. But when it says 41 and where we're at, a lot of times we're anywhere from 2 to 4 degrees cooler. So we might go ahead and leave the potatoes covered up for one day, and we're going to take the rest of these covers up. Now, we didn't get everything covered. It's a lot of work when you're trying to do this, get the greenhouse tied up and closed and everything. We didn't cover our leek and our beets. I came out here early this morning when it was just about, supposedly it got down about 32. That's what it said in my little greenhouse up high, but it felt a little warmer in there. But anyway, I come out at that time and I watered everything down. The biggest thing about a freeze is if it does freeze solid, it takes and pulls the moisture out of the leaves, and it can, in some circumstance where you have thicker leaf vegetables, it can damage them. Now, we didn't get our okra covered either. Now, I can see on this plant, when you start looking at it, you can see these leaves drooping. Now, these might not recover, but this one here, it looks like it'll recover fine. I watered them, and then I come down and watered them again, but we didn't get enough time. We weren't going to be out here in the dark. We kind of got wore down, working in the wind and the cool all day. Now I come out too, and I watered all my peppers, and they're looking good, even though the temperature's got that low. When you get that those leaves good and wet, and you do two things. You're putting water on that is at ground temperature, so your water's probably in the 60s. Right now it's up in the mid 40s, so everything's pretty much drying off. Like I say, it just barely got down to freezing, and a lot of things like the onions, we didn't even plan to cover this row, because you can see how they're standing up, no effect from them. Same thing with the leek. Now we went ahead and we covered our dill, and our parsley is mainly for the parsley, and I'll be taking these off. And our dill here, which you can still see it sparkling from where I had watered it, and it should be in good shape. But anyway, our green beans, we're going to see how they fared. Now, I came back and I watered the top of part of these, like say, for the water to kind of warm it up a little bit. And then I didn't water over here, and you can kind of see imprints of leaves. So I don't know if that water on them and getting that against the leaves, if that's going to do a little more damage, but they should have fared fine. Or cilantro, which it kind of wilted down from having the water on it, and it still feels nice and cold, but it'll be standing up here by the afternoon. This okra here actually looks pretty fine. A lot of times they say the temperature gets colder at the ground. Now, I don't know how true that is, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, everything seems to be faring good. What I'm going to do is we're going to give it one more day, and we'll give an update, because usually after one day you'll really see what the freeze has done. Now it's October 20th. I've just uncovered potatoes, and as you can see, they look like nothing's ever happened to them. So that's good. Our little collard greens here, they're doing okay. Still no sign of our spinach, but it'll be there. Now the peas, the green peas, early peas, English peas, whatever you want to call them, they're doing fine. The weather didn't bother them at all. And we'll go around here and take a look at the peppers, because peppers don't like cold. Now I can't say, because they weren't looking real good. It looks like they might have got nipped a little bit on their leaves, but they survived pretty good, which was surprising, because it did get cold enough to bother a few things. Now, as far as my turmeric, I don't know if the leaves were a little bit, they had a few brown spots on, so it didn't seem to bother them. But like I say, when I came back that next morning, yesterday morning early, I come in and watered everything down. That way we wouldn't worry about the freeze drawing the moisture out. Same thing with all these peppers down here. Now they've been slowly, the fall, maybe the difference in the sunlight, it's caused them to start losing a lot of leaves. But no problem. No problem here with the garlic that's come up. Now the elephant garlic, which is up here, it hadn't even come up, so we're not going to worry about it. I can uncover my carrots today, being I won't have to worry about them freezing. But my little turnips and mustard, they're doing okay. So that's great. Strawberries, they don't care. They'll take cold weather like that, and as you can see, they're unscathed. There's nothing there. And surprisingly, this okra, of course, it's been in rough shape, the way it's all leaned over and grown back up. So, but it surprisingly didn't get bad as I thought it would. Now, my cilantro, which it's good for cold weather and stuff, you can see it's standing bright and happy now. Now, what I can say on my green beans, which without picking them now, but where I did wet the cover down and the leaves touched, it did tend to bite some of those leaves. But generally, where they weren't wet down and touching the row cover, they seem to fare okay. We don't have any damage on the leaves. Just as a note on that. And there's no difference between my deal that was covered and my deal that wasn't covered, so it wouldn't have affected it. And of course, onions, they don't care. They really like the cold, so they survive fine. The one thing I noticed on my okra, which I did come out and water it early that morning, was you can see the leaves that were drooping yesterday, they're toast, but it did get a little bit of the top, but it didn't freeze the top out, so they should be fine. Pretty much all of them. Some of them got pretty hard on the freeze, but it looks like the tops are all fine on most of them. So what I'll do is I'll probably end up trimming these leaves off. They're just going to dry up, and they're kind of a draw on the plant right now. So we'll take and get rid of them. And these little onions here, I don't know what the deal is, but these just don't seem to be faring as well as others, and they might not like this spot. I'm not sure. I might need to come back in here and give them some more fish emulsion, get them to going. But like I say, the peppers, they did well. There's not that much there. So anyway, this give you an overview on you know, about 31 degrees. Could have got a little bit colder, but like I say, I don't have my thermometer outside. I know that inside the small greenhouse over here, the temperature gauge was saying 32, and it sets up high. So and everything seemed to fare fine in there. Even the citrus trees are doing okay. But if you want to see more of mine, of course, hit that subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified. Happy gardening.